For over half a century, the moon just sat there close enough to see with the naked eye, yet completely out of reach for any living human. The last time anyone left Earth to visit it was December 1972, before the internet, before smartphones, before most of you were even born. But on the evening of April 1st, 2026, that 5-3-year silence was finally broken. 4 astronauts strapped into a rocket on the Florida coast, and humanity took its first steps back toward the moon. This is the complete story of Artemis II, what happened, why it matters, and what it means for our future. Before we get to the launch, you need to understand how close this mission came to never happening at all. NASA's Space Launch System, the SLS, is the most powerful rocket the agency has ever built. But power doesn't mean smooth sailing. In early 2026, the rocket leaked hydrogen during a system test. Engineers fixed it. Then, days later, it started leaking helium. NASA made the call to roll the entire vehicle back into their assembly building, take it apart, fix everything, and start over. Weeks of work just to get back to where they started. When the rocket finally returned to the pad, and the crew was suited up on April 1st, there was one final scare. Ground crews noticed strange readings from the Flight Termination System, the FTS. Think of it as the rocket's self-destruct mechanism. It's a set of explosive charges that can blow the rocket apart mid-air if it ever loses control, protecting people on the ground below. It's something you never want to use, but absolutely need working perfectly. For a tense few minutes, nobody knew if the launch would go ahead. Engineers traced the issue to nothing more than a faulty sensor. The system itself was completely fine. At 6:35 p.m., the engines ignited, and Artemis II rose into a clear blue Florida sky. 4 people were on board, and this wasn't just a NASA story, it was a global one. Commander Reed Wiseman led the mission of veteran astronaut and former ISS commander. Pilot Victor Glover, a U.S. Navy aviator, became the first black astronaut ever assigned to a lunar mission. Mission specialist Christina Koch already held the record for the longest single spaceflight by a woman. And mission specialist Jeremy Hansen of the Canadian Space Agency became the first Canadian in history to fly on a crewed moon mission. Their spacecraft was named Integrity, and the name was intentional. The service module providing power, propulsion, and life support was built in Germany under a European Space Agency contract. Integrity was a tribute to the international effort behind the mission teams from the US, Europe, Canada, and beyond, all working together toward one goal. 8.5 minutes after launch, the booster engines shut down at 100 miles altitude and the spacecraft entered Earth orbit. The upper stage then fired to push Integrity up to a high orbit of roughly 43,500 miles, where the crew paused for a full systems check before committing to the moon. This was only the second flight of an Orion capsule ever, and the first with humans. So NASA wanted everything verified before heading deeper into space. The crew found 2 issues. First, the toilet broke. The Universal Waste Management System was supposed to be a massive upgrade over the Apollo days, when astronauts used plastic bags. Integrity had a full enclosed bathroom. Except the suction fan failed, taking the urination hose out of action. The crew had to fall back on the contingency urinal, which is just a bag. For number 1, it was back to basics. The rest worked fine. Second, an IT issue with their Microsoft Outlook email. 2 official NASA accounts, and they couldn't log into either. If you've ever worked in a corporate office, you understand completely. Neither problem threatened the mission, and ground control cleared Integrity for the most important engine burn of the flight. On the evening of April 2nd, ground control gave the green light for the translunar injection burn, the TLI. The service module fired its main engine, broke free from Earth orbit, and committed the crew to a path toward the moon. No turning back. The route they followed is called a free return trajectory, the most efficient path between Earth and Moon. Rather than fighting gravity, the spacecraft uses it. Lunar gravity grabs the ship as it approaches, slings it around the far side like a slingshot, and throws it back toward Earth. Earth's gravity then takes over and pulls the crew home. Elegant, efficient, and proven since the Apollo era. During this coast phase, the crew turned their cameras back toward Earth and captured something extraordinary. On April 3rd, At roughly 100,000 miles from Earth, Commander Wiseman aimed a wide-angle Nikon D5 camera out the window. The result was a single image showing our entire planet in one frame, something nearly impossible from low Earth orbit because you're simply too close to fit it all in. The lighting made it even more special. The sun was barely peeking over the horizon, so most of the light came from the moon's reflection, softly illuminating Earth's dark side. The Nikon D5's exceptional low-light sensor brought the full scene to life in stunning detail. NASA titled the image "Hello World," a message from 4 humans, hundreds of thousands of miles from home, telling the world, "We made it." Then came the main event. What separates Artemis II from every Apollo mission is raw distance. At their furthest point, the crew reached 252,756 miles from Earth, smashing the record set by Apollo 13 inches 1,970 by over 4,000 miles. No human being in history had ever been that far from home. At 4,000 miles above the lunar surface, the entire moon filled the spacecraft windows, poles and all, in a way Apollo crews never experienced. They orbited just a few hundred miles up and could only ever see one small patch at a time. From here, it was like holding a basketball at arm's length. During approach, the crew spotted 2 previously unidentified craters.
There's a feature in a really neat place on the moon, and it is on the near side, far side boundary. In fact, it's just on the...
One was proposed to be named Integrity after the spacecraft. The second, a bright, fresh impact crater on the boundary between the near and far side, was proposed to be named Carol after Commander Wiseman's late wife, who passed away in 2020. One of the most quietly emotional moments of the entire mission. The crew also made visual observations no camera could replicate. Christina Koch noted the moon wasn't the uniform gray it appears from Earth. She saw distinct browns and even a faint green in crater regions. The human eye perceives far greater color range and contrast than any camera sensor. This is exactly why NASA sent humans rather than just robots. As Integrity crossed into the far side, the crew passed over the Orion Basin, a crater 600 miles wide and 3.8 billion years old. First time any human eyes had seen the whole thing. The far side itself was dramatically different from what we see from Earth. No dark volcanic plains. Instead, dense, ancient cratering stretching as far as they could see, rugged, wild, and untouched. The crew also got their first human view of the lunar South Pole, NASA's target for future Artemis landings. And from what they saw, the terrain is nothing like the flat Apollo landing zones. Steep cliffs, deep shadows, and complex geography that will make landing there one of the greatest engineering challenges in history. As Integrity rounded the far side, something poetic unfolded. The crew watched Earth slowly sink below the lunar horizon, an Earthset. With the moon now between the spacecraft and Earth, all communications were cut. For roughly 40 minutes, these 4 people were completely unreachable by anyone on the planet, truly alone in the universe. When they emerged and communication resumed, Earth climbed back into view above the lunar horizon, an Earthrise. An echo of the famous Apollo 8 photograph taken on Christmas Eve, 1968. Except this time, captured in stunning resolution for a whole new generation. Then came something no human had ever witnessed, a total solar eclipse from the far side of the moon. On Earth, eclipses last just minutes. Out here, with the moon appearing far larger than the sun, it lasted nearly 54 minutes. The crew photographed stars and planets against a pitch-black sky behind the moon. And for anyone who's ever heard the conspiracy theory about why you can't see stars from the moon, it's because the sun was out every other time we went. When the sun disappears, the stars come out. Just like on Earth. With the flyby complete, Integrity began the long journey home. 4 more days of coasting before the most dangerous phase of the entire mission, reentry. Reentry is unforgiving. The capsule must hit Earth's atmosphere at precisely the right angle. Too shallow and it bounces off back into space. Too steep and it overheats and burns up. About 20 minutes before hitting the atmosphere, pyrotechnic charges fired and separated the crew capsule from the service module. The service module burned up harmlessly on its own re-entry. The crew capsule flipped around, heat shield forward, and began its final plunge. As it fell through the upper atmosphere, Earth's gravity accelerated it to nearly 32 times the speed of sound, around 25,000 miles per hour. At that velocity, the capsule slammed into air molecules so violently that they exploded into plasma, a superheated state of matter reaching temperatures between 4,000 and 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit. That plasma conducts electricity, which is what cuts off all communication between the crew and ground control. Imagine flying inside a lightning storm for 6 straight minutes. The crew experienced deceleration forces of nearly 4G, 4 times the weight of gravity pressing down on their bodies. Then silence broke. Communication restored. 4 voices confirmed all well on board. At Lima, Coxo, 2 p.m., off the coast of San Diego, California, Integrity splashed down into the Pacific Ocean, completing the 10-day journey, covering 695,081 miles from Earth to the Moon and back. After splashdown, the capsule deployed 5 red helium balloons from its nose to keep it from tipping over in the waves. Recovery boats circled, while a minor communications glitch between Commander Wiseman and the rescue crew caused a brief delay. Eventually, the hatch was opened from the outside, and for the first time in 10 days, the crew breathed fresh air. One by one, Navy recovery officers helped each astronaut out of their harness onto an inflatable raft attached to the capsule nicknamed the front porch, and up into waiting helicopters that carried them to a Navy ship for full medical evaluations. All 4 astronauts were in good health. And that was Artemis II, the most significant human spaceflight mission of the 21st century. The first crewed moon mission in over 50 years. Not the last. Just the beginning of something much, much bigger. If this video helped you understand one of the greatest missions in modern space history, hit like, share it with someone who loves space, and subscribe for more. The moon is just the first stop.